North Glen police are releasing more information after a homeowner shot and killed two boys in their yard over the weekend. Police now say both boys were armed and one of them shot at the homeowner. 9 News reporter Darius Johnson joining us live now from the newsroom. And Darius, as we're learning more about all of this, one of the boys' family members is sharing a little bit more about who he was.
Hey there, Jordan. Good morning. Yeah, the family of 16-year-old Ishmael Cordova identified him as one of the boys who was killed. However, we're still waiting for police to confirm the name and the age of the other boy who died as well. North Glen police responded to a call of trespassing and felony menacing Sunday afternoon around 2 near the intersection of 120th Avenue and Washington Streets. When officers arrived, they found two boys under the age of 18 with gunshot wounds who were both taken to the hospital where they died. Ishmael's family says he was a junior at Hidden Lake High School in Westminster. That's him right there on your screen. He had 4 sisters and 2 little brothers. His family says they don't want Ishmael to be remembered for this, but for the good that he has done.
I would like to know, that he was okay. I mean, I want people to know, him for who he was. He was a student, a big brother, an athlete. He loved to spend time with his siblings and his family. And, we just want to get him to rest and the other boy too, because they're just kids.
Now, police say the boys broke through the fence but never made it inside the home. They say one had a handgun and exchanged fire with the homeowner. The other was armed with a machete. At this point in time, no charges have been filed against the homeowner, and the name of the other boy, Jordan, has not yet been released.
All right, Darius Johnson reporting for us. Darius, thank you so much.
Well, the family of victims of a truck crash that killed people on I-25 in June has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the company excuse me, that was operating the truck. The lawsuit alleges that the driver did not have a valid commercial driver's license at the time and the brakes on the truck were not working properly. Investigative documents obtained by 9 News support those claims. All 5 people were members of the same family traveling to Wyoming. Their car had slowed down for traffic in northern Colorado when the truck carrying mail slammed into the back of the car at 70 miles an hour. The lawsuit claims neither the truck nor the driver were legally allowed to be on the road at that time. Nearly 4 months later, the Weld County District Attorney's Office has still not decided whether criminal charges will be filed against the truck driver. The DA's office told us that the Colorado State Patrol is still investigating and the documents they need have not been turned over yet for any decision to be made.
4 months after Christian Glass was shot and killed by a Clear Creek County deputy, the county wants to form a team that might have prevented his death. The sheriff and county commissioners have agreed to form a crisis response team, mental health professionals who respond to mental health calls. That's something the sheriff didn't think would work 2 years ago when it was recommended after another shooting involving his deputies.
After 3 weeks of silence about this.
Step out of the car now.
Clear Creek County Sheriff Rick Albers released a statement Wednesday about one of his deputies shooting and killing Christian Glass. He was in the midst of a mental health crisis. We understand there is a multitude of information pertaining to the June 2022 incident, he wrote. This incident has been a tragedy for everyone. In that statement, the sheriff says his office is collaborating with the county's Board of Commissioners in the research and development of a crisis response team.
We've been talking about this for a long time. We need to get action done.
A sentiment he echoed at a county board meeting on Tuesday. It is not a sentiment the sheriff has always agreed with. Back in 2020, a grand jury reviewed another Clear Creek County shooting of a man with a history of mental health crises. The grand jury cleared the 2 deputies in the shooting death of Darren Patterson, but it also made recommendations to the county. They said Clear Creek County had insufficient resources for people with mental health problems, that the county needed to enable law enforcement with resources to respond and identify mental health resources that could be immediately available to law enforcement to help those in mental health crises.
We're having a work session to discuss mental health and enforcement.
The county commissioners and the sheriff talked about that recommendation in a meeting back in 2020.
You commissioners are familiar with are these crisis intervention teams.
At the time, Sheriff Albers shot down the idea of special responders for mental health calls.
I can see where that would work, maybe in a bigger city where they get more calls. I don't think there's a supply and demand enough to have a 24/7 crisis intervention team at this point in Clear Creek County. They'd be doing a lot of sitting around.
Nearly 2 years to the date of that meeting, After a shooting that drew international attention to his department, Sheriff Albers seems to have had a change of heart.
It's almost better to have an outside agency come in and do this.
Steve Steger reporting. Now, last summer, the County Board of Clear Creek met with the commissioners in Gilpin to talk about creating some sort of mental health responding team the counties could share. The sheriff seemed more on board then, but 15 months later, they're still talking about creating a team. The deputy who shot and killed Glass is back on the street while the DA reviews this shooting.
Aurora is on the hook, for $58,000 for its failed first search for a new police chief. The city is starting over after all but one of its finalists dropped out. Colorado's most diverse city had a search firm that specializes in bringing diverse candidates in, but they ended up with 3 white men as finalists. Aurora's contract with the public sector search and consulting company shows the city agreed to pay $19,000 up front for their services, $19,000 after the firm presented the candidates, and $20,000 after the hiring process. The city says the group has sent invoices for the first 2 charges. 21 people applied to be Aurora's police chief. A third of them were women, we are told, or people of color. 2 out of that group were identified as semi-finalists. The city chose the 3 white men in the end. Now Aurora is starting over with the search. We asked the city if they would stick with the same firm for round 2 and if the original candidates would be considered once again. The city told us they're still trying to figure all that out.
And one thing you want to know about the weather today, sunny and seasonal. Look at these temperatures, upper 60s, lower 70s, lots of sunshine. Tomorrow behind a cold front, a whole different story. Much cooler, 60s and 50s with a few rain showers.
And one thing to know about your traffic, it will likely be impacted tonight. There's a Broncos game at 6:15, so expect delays I-25 Spear and Colfax. Think about taking a Lyft or Uber to the game instead.